play video games no more. Never play video games. Except for a little bit of God of War. Never play video games. Hope people are having a lovely evening. And hopefully I am coming through clearly. We shall see. Yay! I am seen! I am perceived. I am experienced by others, and therefore my existence is provable by outside observation, and I am not merely a mind floating endlessly in the void. Hope everybody had a lovely weekend. Honor our LGBT Elders Day. At what point do I get considered an elder? Like, I suppose it depends on who you ask. There's definitely plenty of people on TikTok who would consider me an elder because that friggin' platform skews young. First time here? Well, good to have you here, Autumn Rose. A reminder, while I do try and keep up with the chat and we take a nice relaxed attitude, I cannot guarantee that I will see or address your question or comment. The best way to guarantee that is a super chat, which will also get you a heart from me in appreciation. So, yeah, don't really have a specific topic this time around. It's just having a hard time. We're believing that we're halfway through May. Like this year is speeding fast at a rate that is frankly unsettling to me a little bit. If I'm gonna be honest, Loki season 2 is getting released in October now. I wonder why. Well, I would say, Rowan, if you are implying that it's because of Jonathan Majors, I'd say it's more likely because of the writer's strike. If they're, working in the editing room and they realize that they have pickup shoots or anything like that, but it could easily be both. I'm just happy we got to hear. We were talking about Zathras again this week on the podcast. Zathras. Oh, he's wonderful. I mean, is being an elder LGBT, is it measured by your age or when you transitioned? I don't know. I would think they would both factor in. But also, like, I don't know how to measure, when I transitioned or when I came out. I can tell you how long I've been on specific hormone cocktails. I can tell you when I came out to somebody in the first place at all. I can tell you when I came out to my mother. I can tell you when I came out to most of my friends. I can tell you when I came out on the channel. I can tell you when I came out on my public-facing social media where it was not already known. I can tell you where I would have come out on the job if I hadn't been laid off. So, yeah, that's the thing about coming out. People are like, when did you come out? Like, which time? Yeah, that's a continuous process. Yeah, the review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that review has ruffled some feathers, which I thought might happen. I'd really hoped it wouldn't. But some people's feathers were very, very ruffled by that. So, yeah. Aaron, thank you so very much for the super chat. I appreciate that greatly. Ooh, Canadian dollars. Hello, my neighbor to the north. Depending on where in Canada, you are probably closer to me than a lot of the folks in the chat who are in the U.S. are. Just saying hello. Well, hello to you as well. My weekend consisted of being a little disappointed, but ultimately not surprised that Germany came in last place at the Eurovision Song Contest. Oh, well, what can you do? Qualify as an elder queer, Carolyn? I mean, I think you would wear that title with wonderful and amazing dignity. Would I ever try to do stand-up again? Not unless somebody paid me. Like, I could definitely see having a reason like stand up and like give a talk, give a conversation. And I would probably sprinkle in jokes if I were to do that, just because I'm me. And if I'm not angry ranting, then I'm probably slipping a few jokes in if I'm scripting. But like the idea of doing it primarily for the purposes of making people laugh, that's not something I do voluntarily. If somebody like wanted to pay me like the price of a speaking engagement to do a stand-up set, yeah, sure, I'd do that. But other than that, no. Do I know John Campea? I know I've heard that name. No, I don't know who that is. Nova Scotia, so yeah, not far from you. So, funny thing, Aaron, the job that I had when I was in college, I worked at Barnes & Noble. I started out shelving the books. And there was a woman there. She worked primarily with the used books. I forget what her full name was, but her nickname, when everyone called her, was Scotia. And apparently before I started working there, they had an employee named Nova. So, yeah, that was the thing that happened. Oh, hey, Meg. Good to see you. I'm glad you came in. Finland should have won Eurovision. I have no opinion. I did not watch Eurovision. You know, as a British person, I've always thought having land borders must be surreal. Like there's just these people a few miles away who live in another country. See, for me, it's surreal to think about the idea of not being able to drive out of your own country. You know, you got to get on a boat or get on a plane. So, you know, it varies with what you consider to be normal and what feels normal to you. Have I ever watched a soap opera before? Depends on how you define it. If you mean the way most people would define it, like a daytime soap opera, no. Have I watched some shows that are effectively like soap operas with better production value, like, say, for instance, Ugly Betty? Yeah, I have. So, you know, it depends on how much you want to stretch the definition. Amanda JMB. Thank you so much. I'm closer to 50 than 40 and proud of elder status. Yeah, like I am finding the older I get, like once I started approaching 40 and I accepted that I was almost 40, I was like, you know what? That's 40 years during which I have not let the world grind me down. That's a badge of honor, that is. So, yeah, I get more comfortable with it as I age, which makes sense. One would hope maturity would make you more comfortable with your actual age. Tobin Jordan, thank you very much for the super chat. Let's see. Hey, I just saw you were live on here. Wanted to say hi. Saw you perform last Friday night with my friends, and you were amazing. Just wanted to say hello and thank you. Thank you, Tobin. I think this might be the first time someone who has seen me perform live has popped in during a live stream. Oh, that's lovely. I hope you had a good time. That was a fun show. I did another show the very next night in Rutland, but I always like performing at Untapped. It's a real fun venue. I ended up with a not insubstantial bruise on my knee from my first number, from when I jumped down and stabbed the phone. I didn't land exactly as I should have. And people who don't know what kind of performance I do or who have never seen me perform live, which is the vast majority of the chat, are just like, "Did you just say stab a phone? Wait, what?" Yeah, well, burlesque takes many a form. Do they have soap operas in the US? I mean, yeah, they're not like they were huge for a long time. They're not as much of a thing now. But there's probably still some going. Wouldn't be surprised if they accused you of hypocrisy for not liking the element of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, yet liking Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Well, I point out two things about that. One, I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and fell in love with it at an age when, frankly, that stuff didn't bother me. I'm not the same person that I was when I fell in love with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it's easy to retain that love once you're in it. But even beyond that, that book series and really no adaptation, and this is, okay, so this is the big thing for me when you're talking large-scale destruction of anything in these things, whether it be superheroes or anything else, whether you play it for comedy or you play it seriously. The instant you establish children, tread very lightly, because the needless and cruel and unfeeling death of children ticks me off. And part of that is being a parent, I'm sure. But I understand that it makes no logical sense when I tell you that if a film or story does not firmly establish to me that children exist, then I'm able to pretend they don't. I understand that makes no logical sense, but that's the emotional reality. If a story does not invest me in the fact or present to me the fact that there are children, then it becomes a purely theoretical, hypothetical thing that I can choose to not deal with. It's why I can work with some stories that have mass destruction in them, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like Doctor Strangelove, like the original Star Wars and the destruction of Alderaan. We didn't see anybody on that planet. And some people might say, well, limit of the budget and whatever. No, it was a good thing we didn't see anyone on that planet, because they're just fodder. And if you established to me that you think children are acceptable fodder, I'm not really okay with that. And I do get this is a way bigger hang up for me than most people. I get that. When's my next busy weekend? I want to know when the next Doctor Who trailer is coming out. Feels like most of my weekends. I've got a couple of busy ones in June. Pride Month, big shock. Why am I so opposed to RTD and Marigold and all the producers coming back? I'm not in the abstract. What I am is worried. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm made nervous by it. Because no, it does not mean they're going to retread it. But the idea that they aren't going to retread things was the main thing that got me excited. But it's harder to maintain that hope when more and more and more and more elements from before are brought back in. That hope is not obliterated, but it has shifted into a much greater sense of caution because there's a lot of groundwork now. There's a lot of foundation that is the same stuff. Does it mean it'll be the same thing? No, it doesn't. I certainly hope it isn't. I want to come out the other side of this and go, I shouldn't have been worried. But I can't change the fact that I am at the moment. That is not wine, Ms. Wickedwolf. That is water. And if it appears anything other than clear, check your monitor settings. When am I going to open a P.O. box so I can send you stuff? Alyssa, I have a P.O. box. It's in the description. It's at the bottom of the description of literally every video. I don't mention it anymore. I used to more often, but I've had a P.O. box for years. A not insignificant amount of stuff that's on the shelf behind me in every video was sent to me to the P.O. box. I've got one. Check the description. Do 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 do. Where did I leave off? Have I ever heard of Coronation Street? I have. I've never watched it. I don't think I've ever watched a British soap. I'm a fellow burlesquer and MC, and the knee drops are brutal. Yeah. Yeah. Like, it could have been worse, but, like, I can look at the bruise and go, yeah. Just wear knee pads. Like, I don't want to wear knee pads because then you can tell I'm going to either do floor work or I'm going to do a hard knee drop, and, like, it removes the surprise of the moment. But, like, at this point, girl, you're 41. Put on freaking knee pads. Will we see any pictures of your shows from this weekend? Maybe a little. I mean, some of them are, including some backstage things, are going up on another site, which I will not mention by name, because I still don't really know how YouTube takes to my mentioning that. But, you know, the one that's exclusively for enthusiasts, just with a slightly different wording. Some pictures are going up there. But yeah, I mean, there'll probably be some that go up on the Vera Wild Twitter. I mean, if you don't mind a slightly more risque look at my life, that's where that stuff tends to pop up as far as public posting. Let's see. Watch a few Spanish soap operas. Oh, interesting. Like your earrings? Oh, thank you. These actually were given to me this past weekend. One of my partners gave me these, which was very sweet. He made them. Let's see. My parenthood is showing. Let it show. I'm a parent. Like, what am I going to pretend I'm not a parent and I don't have parental instincts? Hope I didn't get hurt. I'm fine. It's just a bruise. Yeah, I am sorry about that, Jen. I don't know what the issue was there. Do I watch Succession? I have not. I don't know if I'll get around to it. I'm always behind on stuff that I've been meaning to, there are things that I've been meaning to see for literally decades. I'm on Loyal Fans. Yes, you are. I remember that. No, I've not seen Succession. I've seen clips. It seems lovely. It seems like it's interesting and compelling and a good time and all that. Is that the only bruise I have? Meg! Oh, goodness. I have an interesting life. How do you cope if, say, one does not have a reliable support system and lack personal strength? I'm assuming you mean in terms of, like, trying to come out or have a support system while clear. And unfortunately, I'm not in a position to answer that because I did have a support system and still do have a support system. And I mean, personal strength, that feels like a bit of a self-deprecation. But I don't have the training to advise someone when my own experience is so far away from that. If you don't have a therapist or someone with training who you are able to talk to, I would recommend looking into that. But I had support. I can tell you, broadly speaking, the thing to do is to try and find support, and it can come in a lot of forms. It can be select family members, friends, romantic partners. It can be an online community, depending on the nature of the support you need. But it is out there. And as far as lacking personal strength, I think you probably have a lot more strength than you realize. But if you're in a situation where your strength is overwhelmed, it can feel like you don't have any. I rarely find it to be the case that there truly isn't any there. Have I ever watched Peep Show? Nope, I have not. Amanda JMB coming in back exclusively for enthusiasts. I have to buy you another drink for that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we'll be quiet, let others talk. Hey, it's your dime. You can do as you will. There's a character on Coronation Street who had 30-odd relationships and 30-odd jobs over their 50-year tenure. I feel it shows how ridiculous active TV characters' lives are. Yeah, long run. I mean, there's Overly Sarcastic Productions talked about this. The difference between plot time and downtime, where how during plot time a ton of stuff happens in a small amount of time, but then during downtime, like between stories, it feels like nothing ever happens or very few things happen. And so you'll have, massive time jumps and characters are basically the same, or they've had like one major event since the last time you saw them. But during plot time, if you actually like map out how long these characters have known each other, how long they've been on this quest or working, whatever, or something like Age of Ultron, which is actually like the half day of Ultron, that's the difference in time compression. Or like if you ever run the math on how many actual days your campaigning party in a D&D campaign have actually known each other, it gets ridiculous in a good way. What happened in Guardians of the Galaxy that you didn't like? It's a bit of a spoiler, Black Cover. The review is up in the break room. There is I'd say around about middle or 2/3 of the way in, there is a specific thing that I did not feel was necessary and really would have preferred that the film not do if it was not going to give it proper weight, which I don't feel it did. And then I also had a number of admittedly highly nitpicky, like super nitpicky things, but they still took me out of it. So what are you going to do? Do you think the 60th Doctor Who specials will have an entirely different tone to season 14 onwards? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, you need to realize, Tom Monty, that I'm a bad person to ask that kind of speculation about because my brain doesn't work that way. It's very rare that I have any natural inclination to think about, ooh, and then I bet it'll do this, and I bet they're going to do this, and then it'll be different, and they'll do that. Like, if I don't have something to base those opinions on, i.e. if I haven't seen enough, and like we've seen nothing of Series 14, I can't force my brain to try and think of that and come up with stuff. So this is why I'm bad at speculation, because there's a part in the back of my brain that goes, why are you wasting thinking time on this? You don't have the information. You don't know. This is a wild guess. It's not even an educated guess. So I'm a bad person to ask. Excuse me. With regards to my viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and without going into detail, the moment a certain character reacted to something else is very... what is that? Spam. Is very... In a very white place was the moment I started crying. Like, I cried at a few points. Like, here's the thing. And, like, people seem to miss this. And focused a lot on my criticisms. But, like, The parts that are good in Guardians 3 are great. And I admitted to crying multiple times. So, I went no contact with my parents 14 years ago, found a chosen family a few years ago. I'm glad you found that, Pirates. I really am. Any idea what's with the weird trend of conservatives being hopelessly sex negative, yet at the same time going out of their way to pretend ace and aromantic people don't exist? That's not new. I mean, that's just an added component to an existing things. Conservatives, by and large, have always been sex negative. That's not new. And because asexual and aromantic are queer identities, they're going to slam down on that. And they're not okay with being asexual or being aromantic because in their mind, asexual and aromantic people don't get into relationships, don't get married, don't get a house with a picket fence, and don't crank out 2.5 kids. So yes, of course they have disdain for that. It's my favorite piece of steampunk media. I'm not sure. I haven't taken in all that much actual steampunk media because for me, it's mostly an aesthetic that I like. I mean, probably Girl Genius will probably be it. Yeah. Black cat came up to my driveway yesterday. Her name is Cinder. That's a good name for a black cat. Now, black cover, I'm not going to answer that. As I said, it is spoilers. So, like, you can watch the video and you'll get an answer for exactly what it was that happened. What I think of Groot, I didn't like what they did with him. I didn't mind what they did with him, but he was just kind of there. Like, he was not a focus character. He felt very much in the background, but not in a way that I found distracting, at any rate. Am I, at the very least, excited for what's about to come next in Doctor Who? I'm always excited for Doctor Who. I can be excited and nervous at the same time. Just because I'm not jumping up and down and going, it's going to be great, it's going to be great, it's going to be great, doesn't mean I'm not excited. I contain multitudes. Two things can be true at the same time. I can be nervous, but I can also be excited. I am both. So you don't have to ask me, am I at the very least excited, as if my concerns make me incapable of excitement and joy. They don't. They don't. And I say that as an admittedly cynical person, but I'm not that much of a cynical person. John Vinyls, thank you so much for the super chat. Still trying to understand the logic behind why Netflix chose to cancel Dead End Paranormal Park. Probably just expense. It was a bit of a niche show that, 2 years ago was doing well enough that they would have cleared it, but they are cutting a lot more stuff. Just like all the streaming services, they're doing less output because the glory days of, we're getting this many new subscribers every single month, those days are gone. And so they have to level out their spending. That's why. Yeah, like they gave this character stuff to do every season. Then the mid-2000s, someone wrote an article where they pointed out this guy had like 30 jobs. I'm sure that was a fun article for someone to research. You cried as soon as Creep queued up. Boy, that you watched the credits through the opening credits through a haze then, Dharma. Goodness me. Let's see. What have we got here? And John Vinyl's coming in again. On the whole, the Guardians movies are actually a lot smarter and more heartfelt than they get credit for being, and I will even say that Chris Pratt is a great actor in those movies. He's a great fit for those movies. It doesn't necessarily make him a great actor. But he's a very good fit for those movies. And, they're good. They're all good. But, there were things about this one that just weighed on me in a way I was not expecting. The next scheduled Classic Who request, I'm not going to tell you that, Rowan, because that would be information for the Patreon folks, because I had a poll on there and they decided what it was, and I'm not gonna say what they decided. Y'all will find out. I agree with you, Meg. I agree with you, Karen. Chosen Family is amazing. Carolyn just said anyway. I mean, like, I might as well have said I was kind of being cheeky about that, because I don't think I've ever withheld that information before. Like, I generally like sharing the docket is a Patreon thing, but yeah, no, it's Keys of Marinus. I think I've answered that straightforwardly before, so no worries. I was just being a little bit of a cheeky bugger with that one. Oh, well, have a good evening, Cappuccino. Thank you for stopping in. How does my excitement for the new era compare to my excitement for previous eras? I don't know. I didn't keep tabs. Comparable, I guess. Tom, you're just asking questions that don't compute with my way of viewing things. So I'm sorry I'm not giving good answers. I think I cried most of the movie. Fair. Do I think Netflix is just completely screwed? No. No, I don't think so. I mean, it'll shrink. It won't be what it was. As long as they're careful with their spending, which they're obviously at the very least trying to be. No, they'll still be around. I think they've peaked, like these things tend to do. But no, I don't think they're screwed in like, and then they will go away, or they'll be bought out and acquired. God, that better not happen. I'm so sick of mergers and acquisitions. What was the story of the other Goosebumps book you read? The only two I remember reading were Don't Go in the Basement and I can't remember what it was called. Something about like a monster-themed carnival or amusement park or something. I don't remember. That one I don't really remember at all. I remember reading it. And I say that as in, like, I remember the fact that I read it. But that's kind of all I've got. How do I feel about the reduced episode count for Doctor Who Series 14? It was expected. They've been reducing the episode count steadily for a while. I hope it will go back up if this does really well, but it's unlikely. It's very rare that these things ever go up again once they have been reduced. Reminds me very, we need to get to Hannah's newest special. Yes, we do. Is that out or is that still on the horizon? I can't remember when stuff comes out. It's out now, isn't it? I think it is. I gotta watch that. Yeah. No, I have not gotten to Muppet Mayhem, Ms. Wicked Wolf, because they dropped the entire frickin' season on me, and then I got intimidated by it. I'm like, I've got so much other crap to do. I was really expecting to go episode by episode. One Day at Horrorland. That was the one, Black Cover. Yeah, that was the one. Do I actually think the next series of Doctor Who will be called Series 14, or will there be a tagline like Flux? I expect they're just going to call it Doctor Who and in official media not mention the series at all, and it'll just be like the fan designation, understanding that it's Series 14. Then maybe they'll come up with cute names. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that doesn't really matter until you are marketing it for sale as a Blu-ray or a DVD. Because as far as people just watching it go, it's just the new season. Why are amusement parks being scary such a trope? I would imagine partially because, especially more low rent carnival kind of places, a lot of the rides are like really rickety and feel like they might actually be dangerous to ride, and a surprising number of the things have slightly weird or slightly twisted or slightly horrific theming to, things like fun houses or whatnot. It's not that difficult to thing, and also like your traditional carnival or fair also doesn't stay put. It packs up and it leaves. Where did they come from? Where are they going? Sense of mystery. So, that sort of thing. Do you think Disney owns so many geeky IPs now it's almost become a monopoly? No, Disney owns too much, and they have for a while. But all of these mega companies own too much. That's not really where the monopolies are right now. The monopolies are in the tech sector, by and large, at the moment. And Renfield needs to be watched. Yes, Meg, we do need to try. We need to watch that. We need to figure that out. Netflix may be mad they cancel all the great sci-fi shows after one season because they won't want to pay their writers. Well, they also don't want to pay the cost of the show. You need to realize, especially with the sci-fi show, those are expensive to produce. So, I applied to be a question writer for a quiz show called Pointless. Interesting. You may remember that Marinus is referencing your favorite Doctor Who episode. That's relating to the Sixth Doctor comic strip reveal that Vood became the Cybermen. Ah. Okay. John Vinyl's popping back in. Sidebar. I know he's not an amazing villain, but I will say that Ronan the Accuser does work really well as a foil to the Guardians because they're a multi-species found family. He's functional as a villain. He's thematically appropriate, but, he's also a little on the generic side. I was muted. Son of a gun. Sorry. Sorry. That's embarrassing. Okay. So where did I leave off? What were the questions that I was addressing that nobody heard me? Thank you for messaging me about that, Carolyn. If Netflix went bankrupt and out of business, what would happen to all the shows? I imagine they'd just be sold off at auction to try and cover their debts to whatever IP holders want them. Anyone else excited for Black Mirror Season 3? I am. I just don't know where I'm going to put the reviews. All my other reviews for Black Mirror 3 were put in the main channel, but that was before I moved almost all the review material to the break room of Geeks, so I don't know where I'm going to put those, but I am going to do it when they come out. And John Vinyls had an additional thought on Ronan the Accuser. While Ronan is toxically devoted to the militaristic legacy of his ancestors and their blood feud with Xandar. Yeah, like I understand thematically he fits. I just don't find him that interesting. I rarely find fanatical characters interesting. It's not impossible. They can work, but by and large, they rarely do it for me. Do I expect RTD to stay on after Shooty leaves? No, I don't expect RTD to last more than 1 or 2 series before he hands it over to someone else. That's been my suspicion for a while. What do I think of Raoul and Wendell and Wild? Don't know, haven't seen it. The increased ambiguity of how to correctly number doctors and seasons is starting to bug me. Like, Godwin could be argued as being the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, or frickin' 18th Doctor. Well, yeah, but, you know, there is generally the agreed upon designation, even if technically it should be something else. And there's all the things telling me I was muted. There we go. Yeah. Of course I played Uno, Ms. Wicked Wolf. Anyway, I've got Discord questions to get to. Reminder, the Council of Geeks Discord is a Patreon exclusive perk, and you do have the option and the ability to ask me questions there that I will also address on stream. So I'm going to pop over real quick. I will not be seeing the chat while I address these. Ooh, geez, we got a few. I'm going to try and burn through these. What Shakespeare play would you like to be in, and what character would you like to play? I want to be in Midsummer Night's Dream, and I want to play Puck. Would it be a classic take on the play or something different? The way I've always kind of wanted to be involved with Midsummer Night's Dream is to have it set, you know, in the time that it's set for all the normal human characters, and then all the fairy characters be dressed in contemporary garb. Like I want Oberon in a tux, and Puck sort of decked out like you know, kind of a punk kind of look. What actors would you want to work with it in? Whoever can memorize all the lines. Remember a few months back when I found out that podcaster I liked was kind of a sex pest. To my shame, my instant gut reaction was incredulity that this person I had a parasocial fondness for could do something like that because they always seem so funny and nice. Do you think that's a big part of the reason some public figures, particularly people like podcasters and comedians, are able to get away with being creeps? Their fans just have incredulity about their public and private personas being so at odds, so accusations get ignored. That's a slight oversimplification, but it's a factor. I mean, if someone has done a real good job at endearing themselves to their audience, yeah, that audience is going to give them a lot of benefit of the doubt and be more likely to offer them a second chance. So yeah, it's a factor, sure. Do you think a fair criticism of the culture, so these are the Ian M. Banks novels, both in and out of universe, is the people who live there can come across as kind of insufferable because they are, one, unimaginably privileged, and two, very certain of their own righteousness, like in one of the books that you haven't read, that accidentally start a war when they publicly apologize. They caveat with a historical statistical analysis that shows 99% of the time what they did would have turned out well. I mean, yeah, but like, they can't be perfect. There's got to be something wrong with them. And I think arrogance is a very natural thing for a society like the culture to have. I think that's a fair flaw. I recently found out my baby niece has loose joints. That made me anxious because that's very comorbid with autism. which I have. I can't decide if that anxiety counts as internalized ableism. In theory, I don't think there's anything wrong with being neurodivergent, but I know our society set it up in a way that her life will be harder if she turns out to be on the spectrum. I don't think that's necessarily internalized ableism. I think it's an awareness of her life being more difficult if that's the case. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of people, possibly even people, parents now or people with relatives who are nervous at the idea that someone they care about would come out as any form of queer, not because they have a problem with that, but because they know the world is against them. Like, caring about and worrying about the people in your life is not necessarily some internalized self-hatred. All right, next set. I saw your documentary on the Vera Wild today about spicy accounting. It's so interesting and well made. Looks very professional. Thank you. Where did you get in contact with the other creators? Mostly through TikTok. I'm trying to remember who I had on there. So Drixna I knew from TikTok. Katiosaurus I didn't really know, but I was aware of her stuff. Like, some of these people I was kind of like mutuals and we'd interacted with before. So Drixna and Sai I had known before, and I knew through TikTok. Katiosaurus, I was aware of because of TikTok, but we'd never interacted before she agreed to the interview. Mayleets I'd actually talked with before for stuff on the main Council of Geeks channel. And Sean was actually, he was pointed out to me by Jesse Gender, the fact that he did that kind of content. So that I found him thanks to her, because I wanted to round it out with somebody who with a cis man somewhere in the group, and that's where I found him. In your author's diary, you said you had one ace character in Dreams of Fire. I did not look out for them, so I'm not entirely sure who it is. Is it Tamalian, if you don't mind me asking? Thank you for the representation. It is not Tamalian. Tamalian is a very repressed and a very emotionally cautious character. He is not ace or a romantic. Fair question, decent guess. Like, I would be part of me would almost be surprised if you were to guess the character that was asexual, because it's not, there really aren't any hints. And to me, it did kind of inform the way that I wrote them, but there aren't like clues or anything in there. Do you think it's odd that we haven't had an attempt to resurrect the old school pulp serial style space heroes like Commando Cody or Flash Gordon? I think a full genre throwback to those kinds of series would be really interesting to see in this day and age. If Indiana Jones can still replace and still replicate the old pulp formula and people go for it, I don't see why we can't have something like Captain Proton, Defender of the Earth. Well, the thing is, they haven't. They failed. Like, I remember when I was in my 20s, there was Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. That was a big flop. There was John Carter. That was a massive flop. You have things like Strange World from just a year ago, which is doing a lot of its own stuff, but is very much informed by kind of the Lost World narratives of, those kind of exploration, kind of things, pulpy stories. That flopped. And the thing is, these genres in this day and age are expensive. That's the big thing, is that these are expensive to flop. They're not genres that you can tackle well on a low budget unless you are trying to be deliberately camp or going super stylized. But even then, that's no guarantee, because that's what Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow did, and it flopped. So, have you ever heard of a game called Fuga Melody of Steel? I have not. It's a 2D RPG that's free on Game Pass, which has a really compelling story set in a world of cat and dog people in a version of World War II where a group of kids having to pilot a tank fortress to rescue their kidnapped parents. With lots of deep look at how war can be an adventure from a kid's perspective while also showcasing war as hell. That's a fine balance to ride. If they pulled it off, power to them. Bit of an alternate history question here. Do you think it'd be fun, but I think it'd be fun to have your thoughts on. What if Superman, like the pure classic Truth and Justice Superman, existed in the real world, but let's say 2010 today, how much do you think things would change? That would be entirely dependent on how willing Superman is to buck the status quo. because, you know, the ideals of the original Superman. Superman was practically a socialist hero originally. Every other time he's like busting up corrupt landlords and stuff like that. So that kind of Superman would have a lot of problems with the world it is today. And how would things change? It would depend how much he is willing to use his power to break the system as it exists. And I don't know, because that's generally the question about Superman. How far is he willing to go with the power that he has? And that would be the big question that would determine how much things would change. Would he push towards them changing? Yes. The question would be, would he force them to change? And depending on what era of Superman you're talking about, he might. Silver Age Superman certainly would. That guy was a dick. What is about retconning the Timeless Child that would bother you in a way that Moffat retconning the end of the Time War in the Day of the Doctor didn't? Because I didn't feel like Moffat retcon. I don't feel that what Moffat did, it's technically a retcon, but it felt like a new evolution of the story. It didn't undo the thing that happened. It changed our perspective of it. But more to the point, it didn't feel like he was trying to fix a problem. It felt like he had a story to tell that was the story about saving Gallifrey. Now, that would be the way to make a retcon of the Timeless Child work, is if the point of it is not to do the retcon. The point of it is you're doing the retcon in the course of telling a really good story. So let me be clear. It's not that it's impossible to retcon the Timeless Child and get a good story out of it. It's just that my own instinct is the odds of you threading that needle perfectly are so slim, I would much rather people just move forward and we ignore the thing. Because if you don't nail that, and I mean nail it, then you've just given more oxygen to the problem. So, what are your thoughts on fan theories that attempt to canonize Peter Cushing's portrayal of the Doctor, either as a pre-Hartnell Doctor or a Doctor from a parallel universe? I'm not the kind of fan who needs to do that. I can watch those and fully accept that, yeah, no, this is not the same Doctor. Like, too many things just flatly do not fit. The theory that I heard that I like is that the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies are in-universe portrayals of adventures the Doctor had. And that like at the time they came out, the public wouldn't have been aware that they were basically recreation documentaries. That's the way of fitting them in that I like. Do you find the way that RTD has so frequently used the controlling mother archetype to be problematic, or do you think it's a good way to justify the companion leaving them to spend time with the Doctor? I actually hadn't thought about that aspect specifically. I can tell you I did get tired of what I tend to think of as the domestic side of his stories. That wasn't exclusive to him, though. There was some stuff with Moffat that it bugged me with that, too. But I do feel like it's been used as a go-to a few too many times. Like, you don't have to make somebody's home life a mess to give them a reason to want to travel. You know, I generally... It doesn't always work, because this was technically the case with Clara, but I generally prefer it when companions have an active desire as opposed to are trying to get away from something. It's one of the reasons I love Bill so much. Okay, I'm almost done, I promise. Zathras or Zathras? It's Zathras. Emphasis on the za. Zathras. You gotta roll the R a little bit. Zathras. Zathras is used to be beast of burden. Is very sad life. Will probably lead to sad death. At least there is symmetry. What are some of your favorite frozen treats? Difficulty, no Ben and Jerry's. Oh, you bugger. I don't know. I like the Magnum bars. Plus, I feel a little bit dirty, you know, grabbing something out of the freezer to stick in my mouth that says Magnum on it. So I don't know. Sure, I'll go with that. And with the heat of the summer coming, what's your favorite beverage, alcoholic or otherwise? Whatever is in the cabinet. I drink water. By and large, I drink water. I'm boring like that. Okay. I am back. Any new news or rumors on the MCU's Fantastic Four besides the possible gender swapping of Ben Grimm? I didn't even know that was a rumor. I don't track rumors very much as a rule because, well, for the same reason that I mentioned before, I'm just really bad at speculation. Like, I know that I don't for certain know that this is what's going on, and so my brain kind of wants to stop me from devoting thinking time to a rumor that is probably not true. I occasionally tackle rumors if I think there's an interesting conversation to be had around it, but like just latest rumor, like I can't dedicate my brain to it. I just can't. Bill Potts got married, she would be Mrs. Potts. Only if she didn't take another person's last name, which she might. Although, like, she's also a piece of sentient space fuel now, but whatever. Or a piece of glass, depending on where you want to go. Excuse me, go with it. Left out part of my last question I thought about including. Would you be more worried about your daughter's future if she turns out to be queer in some way? I'm going to politely decline that question, 255 AD, simply because I don't want to get into my, even speculative nature of my kid's identity. What I will say is I am afraid for the future for my child and for all children, especially in the US, because there's a lot of bullshit. And I'll leave it at that. Have I ever played Fruit Ninja or Angry Birds? Yeah, I used to play a fair bit of Angry Birds. I got over it eventually, but the new series seasons aren't counting the original series in their numbering. When you say original series, you mean original New Who or original? Because, yeah, they've never done that. Was I a Whovian pre-reboot, or did it take some time after? I got on board Doctor Who when I saw part of the Satan Pit when I was on a honeymoon in London, and I started, and then I got home and I caught up on New Who series 1 through 3. I have been watching Doctor Who, modern era Doctor Who, as it aired since series 4. And I've been sticking with it ever since. And, going back and trying to take in classic as best I can and when I can find the time. We are going to wrap it up pretty soon, just as a heads up. What are my thoughts on the Angry Birds movie 1 and 2? The first one was okay. The second one was boring to me. Like, it didn't add anything, and like what was good in the first one was still there, but like not fresh anymore. So, oh well, what can you do? So this talk of frozen treats reminds me I got to reward myself an ice cream tomorrow. I've successfully survived house sitting on my own for a whole week. That calls for a treat. And in fact, I would encourage you all, treat yourselves this evening. You have worked hard. You have been through much. And I think you have all been so very, very good. And you deserve something nice, something pleasurable. Treat yourself to that. That's an order. Oh, yes. Thank you for the reminder. Carwin 255 AD, thank you for that one last super chat. Much appreciated. All right. Yes, Knit and Crochet Tiger. You don't want to disappoint me, do you? I have only seen bits and pieces of the Teen Titans series from 2003. But in any case, we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for indulging my silliness and for spending some time with me. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy this. I enjoy this time. And I enjoy talking with you folks. So, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Tomorrow, in the morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I will be on Twitch. And I will be playing more Curse of Monkey Island. Tomorrow marks the return of Take-Two Doctor Who reviews. I gotta start talking about Flux. Oh boy. So that's up tomorrow. And this weekend's video, Saturday's video, will be on what I think, or how I ranked the entrances and the introductions and how each companion of modern era Doctor Who was introduced. And I will be giving my thoughts on what the worst was, what the best was, and everything in between. And that's what is coming up. And hope to see you all there. So take care of yourselves. And please remember that you are beautiful. You are valid. And you are loved. You are the council. I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!